My name is Ingrid Newell and I am currently 33 years old. I honestly almost did not attend that dinner party. Something deep within my gut was telling me to invent some excuse to stay home with a warm bowl of soup and a mediocre movie instead of embarking on a 40-minute drive to my parents' house in the pouring rain. However, my mother had phoned 3 times that week. Each message she left was a little sharper and more biting than the last, reminding me that family shows up for family, that my sister Vanessa's engagement dinner was absolutely not optional, and that this was the specific night we were finally meeting her fiancé, a man named Weston Cole. I was expected to be there, sitting and smiling exactly like everyone else. So I went. I wore the dark green dress I liked, the one that made me feel like a real person instead of a recurring punchline. I also brought a bottle of wine because that is simply what you do when you do not know what else to bring to a table where you have never quite belonged. The house smelled like heavy garlic and roasted chicken when I walked in. For a brief second, just a tiny second, it felt like something good was finally going to happen. My father hugged me at the front door the way he always does, quick and a little stiff, as if showing affection is a chore he is still reluctantly learning. My mother was in the kitchen barking sharp instructions at nobody in particular, and Vanessa was already glowing in the living room. Her hand was looped through the arm of a tall man with dark hair and an easy, practiced laugh. Weston Cole was, from the very first handshake, exactly what I had expected. He was polished, confident, and the kind of man who asks questions because he was raised to believe that questions are a sophisticated form of charm. He shook my hand and said it was nice to finally meet the famous Ingrid. I remember thinking, famous for what exactly? We sat down to dinner not long after that. The 6 of us crowded around the same wooden table I had eaten 1,000 meals at, and for a while it was fine. There was small talk of wedding venues and Weston's job at some logistics firm downtown. We talked about Vanessa's new apartment and my mother's potato gratin, which she mentioned no less than 4 times. Then Weston turned to me, polite as ever, and asked what I did for work. It was such a simple, basic question, the kind you ask a stranger just to be kind. But before I could even open my mouth, my mother cut in fast and sharp, the way she always does when she is trying to get ahead of something she deems embarrassing. "Don't embarrass us," she said, not even looking at me, already reaching for the wine. The table went quiet in that particular way rooms go quiet when everyone already knows the joke except the person it is actually about. My father chuckled quietly into his napkin. Weston's easy smile faltered for half a second, unsure if this was a rehearsed bit or something real. And Vanessa, my sister, the bride-to-be glowing under the dining room lights, leaned toward Weston with a little laugh and said, loud enough for the whole table to hear, "Maybe lie this time so you don't sound so pathetic." Everyone laughed. They actually laughed. My mother laughed the loudest. I did not say anything for a long moment. I just sat there with my fork in my hand, feeling that old familiar heat crawl up my neck. It was the same heat I felt at every birthday, every holiday, and every family gathering since I was maybe 19 years old and made the mistake of leaving a corporate job to build something of my own. In this family, ambition that does not come with a traditional business card and a shiny company logo is not seen as ambition at all. It is viewed as a disappointment they have been nursing for over a decade. What none of them knew, what none of them had bothered to ask in all these years, was that I had not been unemployed in a very long time. Not since I quietly built a successful consulting firm from a laptop in my apartment, one that now worked with 3 companies whose names would have made my mother's jaw drop if she had ever cared enough to look them up. Not since I signed a contract 2 years ago with a logistics company downtown, the same industry Weston had just described, doing work that occasionally put me in rooms with people who mattered. I looked at Weston. I looked at my sister's smug little smile. And I just smiled back, calm and easy. It was the same way I imagine my mother smiles when she is about to lie to a room full of people who trust her. "No," I said quietly. "I think I will tell the truth this time." I picked up my glass, took a slow sip, and let the silence stretch just long enough for it to feel truly uncomfortable. Weston was still watching me, curious now instead of just polite. My mother's smile had gone brittle at the edges. "Actually," I said, setting my glass down, "I think you and I have already met, Weston. Just not like this." His face changed first, then Vanessa's, then one by one around that table. The laughter died completely. Weston's easy smile was gone entirely now, replaced by something more careful, more searching, like he was trying to place a face he had only seen before in a different context. "Met before," he said slowly. "I don't think so. I would have remembered." "You would have," I said, "if you had looked up from your phone during the Harrington account meeting 3 months ago. I was the consultant standing at the back of the room while your VP of operations presented numbers that didn't add up. You spent most of that meeting checking scores on your phone under the table." I noticed things. It is sort of my job." The color started draining from his face in slow motion, like watching a photograph develop in reverse. My mother's fork had frozen halfway to her mouth. My father set his glass down with a small, deliberate click, the way he does when he senses the ground shifting under him and does not yet understand why. "Wait," Vanessa said, her laugh already dying in her throat. "What are you talking about?" I turned to her, and for the first time in years, I did not feel the old urge to shrink myself smaller to keep the peace. 2 years ago, I started a consulting firm. Small at first, just me, a laptop, and a lot of late nights nobody in this house ever asked about. Today, that firm works with 3 companies, one of which happens to be the logistics group Weston works for. I don't do the day-to-day floor work. I sit with the executives. I have reviewed contracts with Weston's name on them. I have sat 2 seats away from his own CEO, discussing whether his division was hitting its targets. The room had gone so quiet I could hear the rain still tapping against the window behind my mother's head. "You are lying," my mother said. But her voice had lost its certainty, thinning out at the edges like it always does when she is the one caught off guard for once. "I am not," I said calmly. "Check my name, Ingrid Newell. It is on the paperwork. It is on the emails your future son-in-law's company sends out every quarter. I am not hard to find, Mom. You just never looked." Weston set down his own fork very slowly, and when he spoke, his voice had lost all its earlier polish. "You're the new consultant. The one who flagged the Q2 discrepancies." It was not a question anymore. It was recognition, the kind that comes with a cold understanding of just how much he had casually revealed at this table about numbers that were not supposed to be public, about a company culture he had complained about 20 minutes earlier without knowing the woman he was complaining to had already written a formal report about it. Vanessa looked between us, her face cycling through confusion, embarrassment, and something sharper underneath. It was the dawning realization that the sister she just humiliated in front of her fiancé held more leverage in this room than anyone at that table had ever imagined. "Ingrid, I didn't know. I mean, we didn't." "You didn't ask," I said, and I kept my voice even because there was no need to raise it. The truth does its own work when you let it sit in a room long enough. Nobody asked. For 10 years, it has been easier for this family to assume the worst about me than to spend 30 seconds finding out the truth. It was easier to call me unemployed, pathetic, an embarrassment. It made the story simpler, didn't it? The sister who couldn't get it together next to the sister who did everything right. My mother opened her mouth. Maybe to apologize, maybe to argue. I will never know which because I stood up before she could decide. "I am not angry," I said, and strangely in that moment I meant it. I am just done. Done sitting at tables where I have to earn the right to be spoken to like a person. Congratulations on the engagement, Vanessa. I hope you and Weston figure out what honesty looks like before the wedding because tonight I don't think either of you understand it yet. I picked up my purse, left the wine I had brought untouched on the counter, and walked out into the rain without looking back. Nobody followed me. Nobody called. And for the first time in longer than I could remember, the silence behind me did not feel like punishment. Felt like peace. Driving home that night, windshield wipers ticking steady against the glass, I realized something I probably should have understood years earlier. Some people will only ever see you the way they have already decided to see you. And no amount of proof will change that until the truth simply becomes impossible for them to ignore. I did not need my mother's approval anymore. I did not need Vanessa's laughter to stop stinging. I just needed to know finally and completely exactly who I was, and that was enough. If this story hit home for you, if you have ever been the one nobody believed in until you didn't need them to, hit that subscribe button right now and join this family, because there are so many more stories like mine waiting for you. And trust me, you don't want to miss what is coming.